What's up, NFL fans? I'm Emory Hunt, the czar of the playbook, and don't forget to check out and purchase your copy of our latest football game plan book, Stiff Arming Football Myths. We have these available in both PDF and paperback form. Welcome to FootballGamePlan.com, where football makes sense. I'm Emory Hunt, the czar of the playbook. Bring you my 2015 NFL Draft Prospect Rankings video. We're taking a look at the defensive tackle position. We're going to look at my top 10, some small school prospects, as well as some sleepers that you want to keep an eye on.
First, let's take a look at what goes into my prospect rankings. Number one, it's a trait-focused base instead of a level of competition base. I don't care where you play, traits translate. Now look at 3 games: your best game, a player's worst game, and also the best matchup and or competition. And finally, these are not indicative of where I believe these players will actually go in April's draft. Malcolm Brown out of Texas is my #1 rated defensive tackle prospect in this year's draft class. Here's a player that has quick and active hands. He can excel as a 1-tech, a 5-tech, even as the nose. He's powerful in the lower body and does a great job in anchoring at the point of attack, and I think he pursues the football very well. But at times he can struggle to disengage, and the offensive line can get into his chest and control. But overall, I believe he has the cleanest game on film out of any of the defensive tackle prospects in this draft class, and I compare his game to Broderick Bunkley of the New Orleans Saints. Carl Davis out of Iowa at 6'5", 320 pounds is very stout at the point of attack. He controls the line of scrimmage and can beat double teams with ease, and he also has very good hand usage, but he's not overly explosive, and at times he can look like he's a little bit heavy, which means he tends to lumber around on certain plays. But overall, he brings it each and every down, I believe, and in my opinion is definitely worthy of a first-round grade. Next up is Danny Shelton, a big nose tackle out of Washington at 6'2", 339, who has an excellent initial punch. It's almost illegal how he's able to jolt the offensive lineman. He takes very good pursuit angles to the football and is able to beat both reach and scoop blocks with ease. I believe he will be classified as what you would call a gap eater. Now his legs tend to die at times, causing him to lose leverage, and he's not overly quick or sudden. But overall, if you look for a comparison, look at Phil Taylor of the Cleveland Browns. I think he can have that type of impact for your football team. Leonard Williams out of USC at 6'5", 302 pounds is a junior prospect entering the draft. He's very strong at the point of attack. He's able to shock and extend very well. He also excels at getting off blocks, and I believe he has the best football IQ out of any one of the prospects in this year's draft class. But he plays high. He also is susceptible to cut blocks. He doesn't play fast all the time, and I also believe he has adequate change of direction skills, and at times he can leave his chest exposed, which means offensive linemen can get their hands on him and control. But when you look at a guy that I would compare his game to, look no further than Akeem Hicks that plays for the New Orleans Saints. Had a lot of the same issues coming out of Regina, the CIS program up in Canada, but look at where he is now, a very productive player, and I see the same trajectory for Leonard Williams. Terry Williams of East Carolina at 6 feet, 344 pounds, graded out as a second-round prospect, and I will compare his game to Justin Ellis of the Oakland Raiders. He's very quick off the ball. He's an athletic big man that beats base and reach blocks consistently, and he can be good as either a nose tackle or a 1-tech. Now, you wonder about his conditioning from down to down, and when he's tired, he allows himself to get blocked. That has to change immediately as a pro, but I think he's probably the most disruptive defensive tackle in this year's draft class. Grady Jarrett out of Clemson compares favorably to Derek Marks of the Jacksonville Jaguars. He's very disruptive as either a 3-tech or a 1-tech. He consistently draws double teams and has good burst and quickness off the ball. Now he has problems splitting those double teams and doesn't deliver the punch that you want to see from a defensive tackle, but this is a guy that I believe is one of the better defensive tackle prospects this season and does a great job, again, as either a 3 or a 1-tech. Marcus Hardison out of Arizona State at 6'3", 304, graded out as a second-round prospect. He has great ball get-off. He slants well, and I believe he can play multiple positions up front and shows good athleticism. Now, he needs to get stronger in his lower base, and he also has to learn to extend. If he's able to extend with that size, he can control any offensive lineman. But right now, I will compare his game to Stephon Tuitt of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Former Ducks basketball star Eric Armstead is a very good athlete. He can play multiple spots up front. I believe the 5-tech, strong side defensive end, the 4-3, the 4-eye, even a 1-tech. And he's also very functionally strong, which is a good thing to have. Now, technique-wise, he's inconsistent. He doesn't play with length, and his lower body mechanics definitely needs improvement. But overall, he definitely has the football skill you want to see. He has the functional skills you want to see. You clean him up technically, and he'll definitely reach his fullest potential. Jordan Phillips out of Oklahoma is an early entry in the draft. He's a redshirt sophomore, but he shows good quickness off the ball. He has that upside that you look for, and he does a nice job of slipping blocks and is very disruptive. Now, he plays a little high. You want to see his pad level get better as a pro, and at times he struggles to find the football, and that punch needs to get a lot stronger. But like I said before, he has the upside that coaches and GMs and scouts are looking for, and is definitely worthy of a second-round grade. I'm a big fan of Tyler Davidson out of Fresno State. 6'2", 319, in my opinion, plays a lot like Atiba Rubin of the Cleveland Browns. I graded him out as a second-round prospect. He played nose tackle at Fresno State, but I believe he's better as a 1-tech or a 5-tech. He's very strong at the point of attack, and he's able to box out offensive linemen and secure the gap. He has good quickness off the ball as well. Now, if he's stonewalled with that initial punch, he struggles to counter. That's a place where he's going to have to get technically better as a pro. He can get knocked off balance at times, but overall, clean prospect, very good guy to have up front on your defense. Another one of my favorite players in this draft class is Joey Mabu out of Houston, a guy that plays with great leverage and energy. He's a technically sound player with good short area quickness, but he has to develop a counter move and can be late with his hands at times, which causes him to get blocked and washed out of a play. But overall, had a very good week of practice at the Senior Bowl, and I would compare his game to Benny Logan. Eddie Goldman out of Florida State is a guy that wins the hands battle consistently versus an offensive lineman. He shows very good change of direction quickness and could be a very good one-gap penetrator as a pro, but he struggles to hold a point of attack and watches far too often and struggles to disengage. Those are some things in his game that he's going to have to improve on moving forward. Christian Ringo out of the University of Louisiana is able to shed blocks very well. He shows the ability to both anchor and collapse the pocket. He has very strong hands to jolt the offensive lineman, but his marginal change of direction skills leads him to be over-aggressive, which could cause him to be susceptible to traps and whams as a pro. So he's going to have to get a little bit more cognizant of where he's going and get a little bit quicker in order to maximize his potential as a pro. The second half of the outstanding Cajun defensive line duo is Justin Hamilton. Very tough to move off the spot. He extends and controls. He has a very strong punch, and you would classify him as your classic run stuffer. Now, he's not quick off the ball. He's inconsistent with his lower body mechanics. His legs tend to die upon contact. That's something that's going to have to change moving forward. Michael Bennett out of Ohio State is a guy that's very quick off the ball. He can win those one-on-one battles consistently and will be a good pass rusher as a pro, but he struggles to hold a point. He gets engulfed by double teams and doesn't play with balance. A lot of times you'll see him getting knocked to the ground. That can't happen. He has to utilize his hands a lot better moving forward, but I would compare his game to Clinton McDonald. Christian Sokoli out of Buffalo is a guy that I'm very high on, 6'5", 293. He played the 5-tech in that Bulls 3-4 defense. He's very quick off the ball. He extends well. Very powerful player in the trenches, and as a one-gap penetrator, he's consistently in the backfield. Now, you like to see some sort of counter move or ability to disengage quickly at the next level, but that limits his options as a pro as far as scheme versatile is concerned, but he'd excel in the 3-4 as a defensive end. Brian Thompson out of East Stroudsburg had a highly decorated career for the Warriors, playing predominantly the nose tackle spot in that 3-3-5 defense. He plays with great leverage and has the ability to extend and not be moved off the spot. Now, he's very quick off the ball and does a very good job in disengaging. And for a defensive tackle that's only 6'1", he plays bigger than his size. And I think he was playing out of position at nose tackle and would be best suited as a 3-tech or a 1-tech as a pro. And the games I watched, he was moved across the defensive line, playing the 1, the 3, the 5, the 7, and even the nose. Now, overall, this is a very good talent. I compare his game to Chris Jones that plays for the New England Patriots, but as a pro, he's going to have to become a little bit more stout at the point of attack. There's a lot to like about Derek Lott's game. He's relentless. He has good acceleration to the ball carrier and has good spatial awareness, and I believe he's versatile enough to play multiple spots up front. But he doesn't consistently use his hands, and he exposes his chest far too often, which allows offensive linemen to control him. But when you look at a guy whose talent I believe compares to DeAndre Coleman, you're going to get a lot out of Lott coming from Chattanooga. I got the chance to see Rodney Gunther out of Delaware State live versus Monmouth earlier in the season. He's 6'5", 300 pounds, and plays the 5-tech in that 3-3-5 defense. And when we look at what he does well, he showcases excellent functional strength, and at the point of attack, he's flipped between right tackle and left tackle while also playing inside as a shade, and that bodes well for his future moving forward, showing that versatility. But at times, he struggled with leverage and is inconsistent in bringing his legs with his arms, which causes reaching and at times being knocked off base. But overall, I like what I saw from Gunther, and I think he'll be a fine pro as a 5-tech. Tonga Takai out of Montana is a guy that would excel as a nose tech or a 1-tech at the next level. He's very strong at the point of attack and is very tough to move off the ball. And I think as a 1-gap penetrator, he could have a lot of success. Now, he'll have to add a lot of quickness and a little bit more versatility as far as pass rushing is concerned to his game to fully maximize his potential as a pro. Braden Prate out of Illinois State is a relentless player from the defensive tackle spot. When I saw him down at the FCS championship game versus North Dakota State, this was a guy that was making plays consistently. At the line of scrimmage, he had trouble disengaging from blocks, but he's definitely very quick off the ball. And if he doesn't win with quickness and the O-lineman gets his hands on him, he has a hard time shedding that block. But overall, he's a strong player that can drive an offensive lineman directly into the backfield. I think his ideal position as a pro would be at the 1-tech position, being a 1-gap penetrator with the ability to play the shade if need be. I got the chance to see Markel Combs live this year versus Tulane, and he was playing out of position. He played the nose tackle spot. He's not as stout at the point of attack as you like. He's your classic 3 technique because of his quickness off the ball. I think in that capacity, he could have a very productive pro career as a pass rusher. Xavier Williams out of Northern Iowa plays a lot like Nick Williams, who came out of Samford. This is a guy at times is able to control the gap consistently. He shows the ability to 2-gap if need be, so that gives him a lot of flexibility moving forward. Now, he's not overly strong as you like, and he can be put on skates, which comes directly from playing with poor pad level. That has to improve as he moves forward. Troy Moore out of Sacred Heart had a very productive career for the Pioneers, a guy that can find his way in the backfield consistently, but I think his pad level will have to improve significantly if he wants to fully maximize his potential moving forward. But he does have the ability to slant and get into the backfield consistently, causing all types of disruption, which is why I think he's definitely worth a flyer later on in the draft. Deion Simon out of Northwestern State is a lot like Daniel McCullers coming out of Tennessee. He's a true space eater at nose tackle. He's tough to move off the spot. He extends and collapses the pocket. Now, his feet die on contact. He tends to pop straight up out of his stance. Those are some technical things that he's going to have to work on as he moves forward. Charles Tuau out of Texas A&M Commerce consistently draws double teams. He has that 2-gapping ability and is your classic run-stuffing defensive tackle, but it's his inconsistent pad level and his marginal lateral agility that I believe will keep him in that one-dimensional role. As a pro, he also has to find a counter move once he's engaged, but overall, enough talent here in Tuau that's worthy of a 7th-round grade. Was able to get the chance to see Terry Redden out of Memphis live versus Temple later on in the season, and I instantly felt that he was playing out of position as a nose tackle, and Memphis moved him around in between the shade and the 1-tech. He excelled as a shade and as a 1-tech, and he couldn't hold a point as a nose tackle, but as a 1-gap penetrator, I think he definitely has a future moving forward. Xavier Cooper out of Washington State compares favorably to the Giants' Jay Bromley. He has great ball get off. He can extend. He also can be good as a 1-tech because he can collapse the pocket. Now, he plays blind at times. He struggles to bend, and I believe he has marginal change of direction skills. But again, a solid rotational guy that can have a future as a 1-gap penetrator. What I like most about Latarius Walton's game out of Central Michigan is his ability to both extend and slip blockers. He's tough to move off the spot, and he can collapse the pocket, but his leverage is inconsistent, which causes him to lose balance and get washed down the line of scrimmage. But I do believe he can have a future as a 1-tech or even a 5-tech in a 3-4 defense. Chucky Hunter out of TCU was a very productive player for the Horned Frogs. He's very quick off the football, and I believe he causes disruption with that quickness. He's a slant and stunt type of a defensive tackle, but he's technically flawed. Unorthodox stance, doesn't transfer power very well, and he can get put on skates once offensive linemen get in his pads and is able to move him off the football. But again, rotational guy that can be utilized as a situational pass rusher at the next level. Raheem Nunez Roaches out of Southern Miss is a guy that's very quick off the football, and I think would be an ideal 3-tech at the next level, especially with the way he's able to shock and get off blocks. The problem is he was playing out of position for the Golden Eagles, and as a nose tackle or a 1-tech, he didn't have the strength at the point to consistently beat those double teams that he was getting engulfed. But again, as a 3-tech, I think he has tremendous value down the line. Darius Kilgo out of Maryland can shock and hold a point of attack. He's an impact tackler, and he can two-gap if need be, but he struggles to disengage, doesn't have a counter move, and is not a pass rushing threat, which is why I compare his game to Anthony Johnson that plays for the Miami Dolphins. Gabe Wright out of Auburn flashes very good quickness. He has active hands, and I think he would be better suited as a solid rotational 3-tech as a pro. He doesn't play with power. He lacks the balance that you look for, and I don't believe he's stout at the point of attack enough to where you can feel comfortable with him as your full-time starter. But again, situational 3-tech guy that is graded out as a 7th-round prospect. Christian Covington out of Rice is a guy that shows the ability to both extend and use leverage against the offensive tackle. He has very good closing speed to the quarterback, but his legs tend to die on contact, and he lacks a counter move. But I do think he has a future in the NFL as a 5-tech or inside as a defensive tackle in the CFL. So let's recap my 2015 NFL Draft prospect rankings for the defensive tackle position. As you can see, stock power talent in the top 10, 4 first-round graded prospects, 6 second-round graded prospects, and you see great value not only in the 3rd, 4th, and 5th rounds, but even in rounds 6 and 7. A lot of guys that would have very productive futures as professional football players.